Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody had a great New Year's, and we're kicking this year off hot with lots of videos. We've almost got construction done out in our studio, so I'll no longer be at the range or my living room or outside or whatever. I'll actually be doing it in the studio, so hopefully construction will be done in about 2 weeks out, so real soon. Getting kind of antsy for that. Now, this video, I want to talk about the top 5 guns for church security details. And the reason that we picked church security, well, we can do other things for, top 5 guns for conceal and carry, but there's a lot of crossover in these. And so in order to do this, we had to make some choices as far as what the requirements were going to be. And so one of the requirements is this gun had to be a compact version or a full-size version, one of the two. So think about like a Glock 19 or a Glock 17 size gun. We didn't want super small firearms because they don't make sense for a church security team. Church security teams, you can wear vests, you can wear suits or whatever, so you can carry, even if you can't conceal and carry a gun like a smaller gun or one of these guns. Like my wife, she can't carry like a Glock 19. She has to, but she can do in church security because she'll put it on a holster. It's a nice like pancake holster that kind of sucks it into her body a little bit, and then she's got a jacket on over it. So even in the summertime, I'd wear vests and stuff like that. So if you want to be able to wear these outside the waistband. But the other thing is we wanted the capabilities of the accuracy, because the accuracy is really important. Obviously, if we're taking down an active shooter, we wanted to make sure we had good, adequate round count and round capabilities. And then the other thing is that we wanted to pick guns that were somewhat affordable. Now you'll see one of our models here that we're going to talk about is not the most affordable model on here, but it is still a really, really good gun. And so we'll talk about that here when we get into it. So let's go first down the list with our number 5. So 5 being the one that we would probably choose the least, is I'm actually going to choose my Glock 17. And if you saw our video on Glock 17 versus Smith & Wesson M&P, you can guess what is coming up as number 4. I put the Glock just slightly ahead of the Smith & Wesson M&P, or put the M&P just slightly ahead of the Glock because the ergonomics for me fit better. Swap those two up. If you think the ergonomics of the M&P or the Glock fits you better, swap them. It doesn't matter. The reliability and the quality on both these guns is equivalent. Now, this gun, you can see this gun has had a lot of customization on it. That's been customized because I've used it in competition. I've carried this for years. This gun has worn out its first barrel. Who knows how many dozens of guide rods and guide springs and stuff in this thing. So this gun has been used and abused and is well over 100,000 round stroke. So this particular gun, the reason that I would not allow somebody to use something like this is I don't want this much customization on a firearm for a team like that, because the church is liable and their insurance may deny it, and you have issues with people that do these jobs on their pistols so that they're not reliable anymore, right? They come in there, they change out a bunch of internals on their Glocks, and then their Glocks don't run anymore because they didn't have somebody that really knew what they were doing. You can upgrade these guns, so you have to know a little bit about what you're doing, and you have to test it, you have to vet it, which means you do a change, you go do a competition or something. I find this out all the time. I'll do a change, I'll go do a competition, I'm like, well that sucked, and I go back to the factory, or maybe I buy a different model or whatever. I found that out with oversized magazine releases. I put in these oversized magazine releases. I was doing lots of practice. I was like, oh man, I love this. I love this big magazine release. Went to my very first competition. I kept dropping the mag out of there as I'd fire because, I could run through one magazine, but as soon as I was trying to lean across corners or lean out the window of a car or whatever, all of a sudden those magazines, I would get it at the right angle and would drop. So I had to take the extended magazine release off. My wife loves the extended magazine release. It works really well for her. So keep that in mind. Don't allow a lot of customization on your guns for church security. You really want stock factory guns for liability, because you don't want to give the reasoning. We've heard all that with the defense attorneys and prosecuting attorneys. We don't want to give that reasoning. But the simple fact is that we really just want to make sure that we've got good, reliable firearms, and we don't want hack job gunsmiths trying to work on things. So I would say if anybody wants to do changes to their guns, you need to come up with a protocol on how to vet those for your monthly training. So go out to the range and, in order for this change to be vetted, you have to be able to run through 200 rounds worth of training without a problem, without a malfunction related to that issue, something along those lines. Take your pick on how you want to do that. Come up with a protocol that you can implement that says, okay, these changes are okay. Because we don't want to say no changes, otherwise people can't run weapon lights on there. They can't run heavier or lighter recoil springs or whatever to kind of tune for their loads. They can't change out the barrel with a match grade barrel or a threaded barrel or whatever they want to put on there. So just don't necessarily say none, but make sure that you have a vetting process for those changes. Okay, now the next one on our list, like I said, number 4, we're going to go to the Smith & Wesson M&P. This is an original. Now, obviously, you'll get the 2.0 version, but the M&P and the Glock, we can do those interchangeable, right? So 4.5, 5.4, however you want to do that. Those two are pretty interchangeable. They're pretty much on the same level. I put the M&P at number 4 because the M&P points a little bit better for me. I actually end up carrying the Glock substantially more. I don't think I've ever carried this M&P. I carry the Glock substantially more just because I have holsters and gear for it, because I was into Glock long before the M&P was ever out on the market. So keep that in mind for those reasons. But anyways, both those guns, very, very good quality firearms. Now, number 3 on the list is, I'm going to say my Wilson Combat SFT9, but we're really talking about any 2011 pistol. 2011 pistols, if you're one of these guys that's using 1911s, you're a boomer, get over it, move on, get a 2011, guys. Get something that's 9mm, that's got good round count, good capabilities. You don't need a full-size gun. Again, I like compact sizes more than I like the full-size gun. So this is a compact size, right? 4.25-inch barrel. This is considered a compact carry pistol, and this is about the maximum size of a compact carry pistol. This is my favorite gun. This is personally my carry gun every single day. This is what I use for competition. This is what I use for everything. This has been by far my favorite gun. The reason it's number 3 on the list and not number 1 is because this gun particularly is $3,500. The Staccatos you can get that are real similar to this. Staccatos are going to be closer to about $2,000, but there's not a lot of quality 2011s out there that are going to hit that $1,000 mark. So that's the problem with the 2011s, and that's why I put them as number 3, is because they're really going to exceed a lot of people's budget, or they're going to push the budget for people that have the money to afford them. So just keep that in mind, that the 2011s are a great idea, they're a great model, they're a great design. As long as you buy a quality brand, the issue that you run into with them is that they're just expensive. And so we're going to put those at number 3. Now, the Glock, the M&P, those are cheap options, right? Because you're going to get into those for $500. In fact, you can swap out the Glock and get something like a PSA Dagger for $350, and those, again, are actually pretty good. So we're actually going to buy a couple here and start running our students through them. You can look at things like Canics. Again, they're kind of they're not a Glock off, but kind of a similar design, and they're a little bit cheaper. And Canics are good firearms. Canics are vetted, tested firearms, so don't let those kind of scare you away from them. But again, Glock, M&Ps, those are kind of your gold standards when it comes to striker fire guns. Now, number 4 on our list, we're going to run to the Sig Sauer P320. This has been nice light, by the way. That man, that's bright. That's that Streamlight TLR1. I love that light. I start swapping all those, start swapping all my X300s out. This is just a terrific light. Sorry for blinding you. The Sig Sauer P320, or in this case, this is a Wilson Combat variant of it, so the Wilson Combat P320. Personally, I think because it's not actually that much more money to get the Wilsonized one, and it feels a lot better. The ergonomics are better. They tune it a lot better, and so I would look at the Wilson Combat variant of it, because it's only, I want to say, about $300 more for the base model, and then if you get the one with the upgraded trigger, it's a little bit more. But when we got this on Black Friday sale. It was 20% off, so these are not that much more expensive than a standard Sig Sauer 320. So I would look at the Wilson Combat variant as opposed to the Sig variant, but get whichever one. These are good guns. Yes, they had some drop issues at first where they were firing when they were dropped. It was a new design. It needed some details worked out to it. To my knowledge, that issue has been fixed, and that's no longer a concern. These are drop safe now, so not a problem. This is a good quality firearm. The Wilsonized one comes ready from the factory. You don't have to do anything to it. It is a great, solid firearm. One thing that you'll find about these is people that are maybe a little bit older, or women that don't have quite as strong a thumb trying to hit that slide release. This, actually, one of the big advantages here is it has a huge slide release that allows you to get your thumb on there. Now, the 1911s do as well, but that 1911 one you have to push forward, so I end up actually using my left hand now. I've gotten into the habit of hitting that slide release with my left hand when I load that magazine in there. So, and I would actually recommend that everybody start training that way. I think it's actually a better option for doing that because it works on every firearm, whereas hitting it with your dominant hand only works on firearms where you can reach the slide release. Just a thought for you. Anyways, the Sig Sauer P320, great firearm. That's our number 2 on the list. These are just very reliable. I know there's a lot of people that want to hate on them, but the simple fact is these have been proven. The military is proving them with their contracts. I realize one of the reasons they got the contracts is because it was cheaper than the Glock, but that doesn't mean that they weren't quality. They still had to pass all the testing and everything, so it's not that that Glock just smoked them in all these competitions, but it was certainly a good design. It's gotten its fine tuning in. The Wilsonized versions are really nice, and it's got some huge advantages, namely that big ass slide release on there is really, really nice to hit. So the downside of those is the magazines are a little bit more expensive when you're having to buy magazines. You can't get like $12 Magpul magazines like you can for a Glock. So let's go to our number one on the list, and one of my personal favorite guns. These are Shadow Systems. So y'all have been watching the channel. Shadow Systems CR920 or DR920. Both of those are very adequate, or you can get the compensated models. You can look at the Elite or the Combat version, depending. I know they're discontinuing some of the Combat variants. I'm not sure which ones. The Combat variants just basically don't have the cutout for the red dot, so it's kind of nice to have that. So you pay a little bit extra and get the Elite version so that I can have that. I do put an aftermarket trigger in these ones, but not all of them. My other one sitting here does not have an aftermarket trigger in there. So I would look at the Shadow Systems MR920. It's the size of a Glock 19. They have better ergonomics than the Glock. They are lighter than the Glock. You really don't have to do anything to them like you do on Glocks. You have to punch out sights and stuff like that. For the Shadow Systems, you actually have good quality factory sights. I don't know if you can see that, but you have good quality factory combat sights on there, straight from the factory. So really nice. They use a fluted match grade barrel, so the fluting in theory is supposed to help push dirt out and make them more reliable. I have found this to be as reliable as my Glock, and have had no real issues with it any more than you would with any gun that gets run a lot. This gun has probably about 40,000 rounds through it. I've been using it for competition for several years. I just recently swapped to the Wilson Combat. That has been a terrific firearm. I'm a huge fan of Shadow Systems. The reason I like Shadow Systems over Zev, I think Zev actually did refine it better. Zev is more expensive. I can get into the Shadow Systems for $1,000. If I get the Combat version, I'm $700. Right, so I'm only like $100 more than a Glock. By the time I punch out the sights on my Glock, it's about break even. So the Combat versions are really nice. If you're going to go ahead and put a red dot on at some point in time anyways, go ahead and get the Elite version. If you don't think you'll use a red dot, you can always have it cut later, not a big deal. A lot of people do that because it is actually cheaper. It's actually cheaper to buy the Combat version and send it off and have it cut by a gunsmith and then recoated. I just do it straight from the factory because it's easier. And then their Shadow Systems has a patented red dot cut on here, and so it has all the little filler pieces in there, so it works with lots of different type of optics. I wasn't sure what optic I would like, and then if I change optics, then it's a little bit easier. So that's why I like the Shadow Systems one. But bottom line is, guys, these are great quality firearms. You can see the TLR7 light on there actually fits right to the end of this, so it'll fit standard holsters, and if you're competing with it, it'll fit the box in IAPA, so it's really nice. TLR7 is a great weapon light to carry on there. Whether you should have a weapon light on your gun for church security, we'll talk about in a different video, but there you go, guys. That's my top 5 guns that I would pick for church security, and I pretty much take them right in that order. I would, like I said, I do put my 2011 at the top, at the number 1, but I realize that guns like that are out of the price range for a lot of people. They were out of the price range for me up until real recently. So it's not a knock on anybody, guys. There's no shame in getting a $500 Glock. You don't need. I don't shoot any better with this. I just like the gun better. So keep that in mind. Anyways, guys, I really appreciate you all watching. Make sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done.